All right, let's jump right in. We're tackling one of the biggest questions out there right now. Is artificial intelligence coming for your job? Well, the answer is a lot more complicated than a simple yes or no. And honestly, it's a story that's going to define all of our futures. Let's get into it. So, we're kicking things off with a pretty stark warning. And get this, it's not from some tech pessimist or an activist. It's from the heart of global finance, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He recently said we might actually need to hit the brakes on AI-driven layoffs. And his reason? Well, it's nothing less than the need to save society. And this slide really nails the huge paradox we're living in right now. On one side, you've got the global elites at places like Davos warning about potential civil unrest. But on the other side, you've got millions of us, the public, eagerly downloading and using the exact same technology. So who's got it right? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with that warning from Davos, then we'll dig into the hard numbers of what some are calling the job tsunami. After that, we'll look at the very real human cost, ask if history can teach us anything, explore the incredible promise of AI, and then finally, tackle the biggest question of all: how do we manage this massive shift? So let's dig into those alarm bells. I mean, think about it. When the CEO of a bank with something like 300,000 employees says that governments might have to step in and actually restrict companies from laying people off because of AI, well, that's a huge deal. It really sets the stage for a much bigger conversation about the risks if we just let this technology run totally wild. And look, this isn't just some hypothetical, far-off problem. The numbers are already rolling in. Let's take a look at the data behind this job tsunami, because the figures, well, they're pretty staggering. Just in 2025, U.S. companies have announced plans to cut a whopping 1.2 million jobs. Now, to put that into perspective, that is the highest number we've seen since the peak of the pandemic. We're talking numbers on par with the 2008 financial crisis. This is a massive, massive wave of displacement. And here's something brand new. For the first time ever, analysts are actually tracking a specific reason for layoffs: artificial intelligence. Over 55,000 job cuts in 2025 were directly blamed on AI. Now, that might seem like a small fraction of the total, but this is a category that literally did not exist a few years ago, and it is growing incredibly fast. So where are these cuts happening? Well, ironically, right at the epicenter, the tech sector itself. The very industry that's creating this technology got rid of 154,000 jobs in 2025. That's a 15% jump from the year before, all as these companies are shifting from a period of overhiring to just aggressively implementing AI. And if you look at the biggest names in tech, the strategy becomes crystal clear. You've got Meta cutting its workforce by 5% to pour resources into AI. Over at Microsoft, where they let go of 15,000 people, the CEO himself noted that AI is already writing up to 30% of their code. And then there's Amazon, getting ready to cut as many as 30,000 roles, saying flat out that automation is just reducing the need for people in certain jobs. And if we zoom out, you'll see this isn't just a tech problem or US problem. According to the IMF and PwC, a stunning 40% of all jobs around the world are exposed to AI. Now, exposed is the key word. It can mean your job might be replaced by AI, or it might be fundamentally changed by it. Either way you slice it, that is nearly half the entire global workforce. You know, it's easy to get lost in these massive, abstract numbers. But we have to remember, behind every single one of those data points is a human story. To really get the impact, let's just zoom in on one of them. This is Catherine. She's 24 years old, and she was working as a medical receptionist down in Sydney, Australia. You know, a classic entry-level job, the kind of role that's a first step for so many young people who are just starting out their careers. Then, right before Christmas, Catherine and her 3 colleagues were all let go. An AI system just took over their jobs. It handled the calls, filed emails, greeted patients. And her description of it is just hauntingly simple. She said it was very organized, but we wouldn't be doing much. The AI was just better at the job. And for the business, the decision was cold, simple, and purely mathematical. This fear of being replaced by a machine, it feels so intensely now, doesn't it? But is it really new? And this brings us to a huge question. Have we been here before? Is this just another chapter in a story we've seen play out over and over again? So to answer that, we've got to talk about a really key economic idea, the Luddite fallacy.
It's named after a group of English textile workers back in the 1800s who went around smashing the new weaving machines they were terrified would replace them. The fallacy is basically this mistaken belief that new technology automatically leads to a permanent overall loss of jobs in an economy.
And you know what? So far, history has proven that it is in fact a fallacy. The Industrial Revolution got rid of skilled artisans, sure, but it created millions of new factory jobs. The computer age automated tons of clerical work, but it gave birth to the entire IT and software industry. But here's the big question everyone is asking now. Is this time different? Because previous revolutions automated muscle power. AI is starting to automate brain power. The argument is that while history tells us new jobs will be created, the sheer speed and the cognitive nature of the shift might be a challenge like nothing we've ever faced before. And we can't forget why this whole disruption is happening in the first place. It's because on the flip side of this coin of job loss is the incredible, absolutely unprecedented promise of what AI can actually do for humanity. I mean, this is the stuff that has leaders like Jamie Dimon both incredibly excited and deeply concerned. AI is already speeding up drug discovery, making disease detection way more accurate, potentially putting cures for things like cancer and rare diseases finally within our reach. And beyond just healthcare, it promises to free us from all the boring, mundane tasks, maybe even leading to a future with a shorter work week for everybody. And the economic benefits? They're already showing up. The industries that are jumping on the AI bandwagon aren't just surviving, they are absolutely thriving. They're seeing revenue growth that's 3 times higher than their peers, and wages in those sectors are growing faster too. The economic incentive to push forward is just undeniable. So this brings us to our final and maybe most important section. If this disruption is pretty much inevitable and the benefits are just too huge to ignore, how do we navigate this transition? How do we manage this great displacement without, breaking society? So, let's go back to Jamie Dimon, because he didn't just sound the alarm, he also came with a potential solution. He basically outlined a path forward. First, a phased rollout of AI to give everyone time to adapt. Second, a massive investment in retraining workers for new jobs. Third, helping people relocate if they need to for new opportunities. And finally, providing some kind of income support to create a safety net for people during this transition. And honestly, his ideas are just part of a much bigger global conversation that's happening right now. People are seriously talking about things like universal basic income, or UBI, to give everyone a financial floor. And they're talking about a complete rethinking of our education system to focus on skills that complement AI instead of competing with it. I mean, these aren't small tweaks. These are fundamental shifts in how we think about work, school, and society. So here's where we land. The disruption isn't a what-if anymore. It's here. The job cuts are real, but so is the promise of a truly better future. The ultimate question for all of us isn't whether AI is going to reshape our world. That's a given. The real question is, how will we choose to shape it?